Good evening, everybody. You are listening to the Trifecta, where UFOs, paranormal, and cryptids collide, the official podcast of Rocky Mountain Ranch Research. I'm your host, Katie Paige. Tonight we have a great guest. We have a good friend of mine, Mike Clelland. I'm so excited to get into all things UFOs, synchronicities, owls, screen memories and lucid dreaming, and there's so many different questions I have for Mike, so I'm excited to have him here tonight. I hope that you guys are having a great week and that you guys are having more wonder than worry this week. It's a crazy time in this world, and I hope you're all hanging in there and having a good week so far. Before we get Mike on, though, I have just a couple reminders for everybody. First, I want to let everybody know I have a new Patreon page, and there's 3 different levels you can sign up for with all different kinds of goodies for you. And you can find that at Rocky Mountain Ranch Research Patreon. Right there is the link for that. And I would really appreciate your support on that, as well as if you could check out my Rocky Mountain Ranch Research YouTube channel. I'm still trying to catch up for all those subscribers I lost. So if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button at Rocky Mountain Ranch Research, I would greatly appreciate that as well. Every episode, I will be asking 3 multiple choice questions, one on the UFO topic, one on paranormal, and one on cryptids. And if you think you know the answers, you can go to RockyMountainRanchResearch.org/podcast, type in your answers, and I will send you a free PDF gift as well. That's just my way of saying thank you guys for being here and supporting my podcast. Also, I love audience participation and questions. So if you have questions for Mike this evening, please put your questions in all uppercase. That way we know it's a question and we can pop it up there for Mike to answer. And I think that's it for all the reminders. So without further ado, please welcome Mike Clelland. Well, I guess I'm the one. I'll bring him up.
I'm here.
There we go.
I'm here. I made it.
Oh yeah, that's my job. I don't have a whole team back here doing that. Anyway, how you doing, Mike? Thanks for being here.
Oh, it's my delight. My honor. I'm delighted.
Yeah. We had a great time hanging out at the Snippy event in the San Luis Valley, and what a fun time that was.
Yeah.
Even though the weather didn't really agree, but that's okay.
Some days the weather would agree. So
yeah, I mean the sky, the night viewing, because it's dark sky territory. So that was, it was one of those things. We can't control the weather. Maybe some people can, but I don't think we can. So anyway, I really kind of, I've watched your presentation now several times, and I know we've had many discussions about screen memory and synchronicities and all that. And I kind of just really wanted to start off with the fact that I have seen it time and time again, and I'm sure you've received hundreds, if not thousands, of letters from people that have had these animal, mostly owl encounters, but other things as well, which we'll get into. But before that, you outdoorsman, a great artist. Are you a musician as well? Do you play an instrument?
No.
Okay. So I know some of the conversations we have are these creative brains. And I kind of wanted to start the conversation with that. Like, do you think people that are naturally more creative have more of these, or are more aware of synchronistic events, signs, symbols, things like that? Have you noticed that in your research?
Yes. Yeah. I used to have a list of questions I used to ask, and one of them is, are you a creative type? And I stopped answering it. I stopped asking it because everyone said yes.
Oh, everybody.
Not everyone, but enough that it was like, but then it was kind of funny because it was like, you'd say, are you a creative type? And it's like, well, I wrote some poems in high school. And it's like, well, and then another person will say, well, I'm a full-time painter, or, like I'm a professional musician or something like that. So that was a little tough to just give a quick yes or no answer. But my strong sense is that, oh yeah, there's a consistent thread there.
So a significant amount of people. And do you think that's, I guess it would make sense that perhaps, and do you think these people are just more open and are more visually cued into the world around them as artists and musicians? Is that maybe why? Or do you think extraterrestrials or who's ever running this program in the background are more attracted to these types of people?
Yeah, isn't that a good question? Yeah, both, maybe, sure. I don't know the answer, but I could speculate and say there's something about the creative personality or the creative type that would predispose them to these experiences, right? So someone very dry and analytical, like an accountant at the bank,
No
might
offense to
not.
accountants out there, we love
Yeah,
you.
well, I'm not saying it, but it's just so. But they might, whatever that little aura you give off,
Yeah.
whether the UFO occupant is attracted to a certain vibe, I can only speculate. But it seems that there's something about. I think that there's a certain. I mean, to be a creative type, you have to be sort of radically open-minded about a lot of things.
That's true.
So,
And that's an interesting point, and I never thought about it. But as you're saying that, like, so we're talking about mostly owl encounters, but I've had other birds that are just kind of shockingly will show up out of, whoa, that has to be a sign of some sort. But, they migrate and are probably tapped into energy. And so maybe you're right. Maybe they can see, like, maybe it's mood related too. Like if you're, have you noticed, like if you're super depressed or super stressed out or going through a rough time, and maybe you need more guidance or signs from the universe to kind of go, hey, hang in there. Have you seen that pattern as well? Like different moods or different times of people's lives, these things will kind of start maybe a spiritual awakening process.
there's a one of the questions I ask when I reach out to people is, so some people, so I'm collecting these owl stories mostly. There's other stories that show up, and initially, around 2006, I really started aggressively looking into this stuff, and that's 19 years ago. Wow. Is that right? Yeah, that hurts to think about. Okay, yeah, that's a long time ago. So, but it's probably more like in the years after 2006, 2007. Less than 20 years ago, I started looking into this stuff, and So I had a long list of questions. One of them was, are you a creative type, when I would reach out to people, or people would reach out to me. And I've narrowed it down to just 4 questions. And those are, what were you doing leading up to the event? What changed after the event? And by event, it could be a UFO sighting, it could be a powerful owl sighting, or a combination of both. And then, how would you rate your psychic skills? And do you have any healing abilities?
Oh.
So the question, what was going on in your life leading up to the event? People will say, oh my God, I was in total turmoil. Oh, things were just going crazy in my life. It was total upheaval. I was changing from one life to another. Like I just, whether it was a divorce or whether I gotten fired from my job or whether I had a nervous breakdown. So people will say that kind of stuff. Like when I ask what was going on in your life, it's not 100%, but people will say, wow, stuff was happening. So yes, you were asking, is it people are depressed? Is it people are stressed out? So it's like a chapter of their life where something's really going down. Yeah, it's fascinating. So like
energetically, we would be different at that time, right? Like if we're angry or stressed, or we have to be given off like a signal, like, okay, and then if you're open to receiving those messages, you're going to recognize it.
And it could be like you are at the threshold of a transition in your life, right? So if you're going to make a big change in your life, sometimes that rarely happens. Like, I'm going to make a nice big change in my life. And then it just unfolds elegantly and you just start on a new path. Whoa, that doesn't happen like that. Rarely. I guess it might happen sometimes. It's usually like you're like, I want to cling to this old life. And then you're thrust out of that and then forced to live this new life, whether that's, breakups or, a death in the family or a death of a loved one. All of these things can trigger this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right. That is so true. What is it in human nature that causes us to want to just hold on to the familiar? It's very scary to change. And so have you, like through all your research and, you're going on 20 years now, do you think the signs and symbols and synchronicities and owl sightings, is the common message there of guidance and hope and support? Is that how most people interpret that?
Oh, I wish it was. It's probably more like I would say it's that the So, okay, let's back up. I'm not looking at the big totality of, the UFO mythos. I'm not looking at the great big, like, I'm not a generalist. I don't have I'm not looking at like all kinds of UFOs. I'm looking at a very narrow sliver of
Right.
people who have had UFO and owl encounters. And I would say that it would be the challenge of the transition. Like the owl is not a nice, fluffy, light totem. Like it implies something tough. It implies something. It implies a challenge. Now, a challenge isn't necessarily bad, right? So you can overcome a challenge, and you can change your life for the better. And there's all kinds of things. Like anything worthwhile, would require some hard work. So I have to be really careful because I would love it to be just all love and light and fluffy, but that's not the stories. The stories don't show that. But the stories aren't necessarily bad. They're not bad. People aren't confronted or swallowed up into things that are bad. They can certainly be hard work.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make them bad. Yeah.
Well, that's where we grow the most, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm going to put us to the side here so I can pop up some of your covers. And really quick, I'm going to go with question number 1, the UFO question. So excuse me, really quick. UFO question. The Phoenix Lights UFO event happened in which year? 1997, 2007, or 1987? All right. That's question number 1. So before we bring up your owl books, and submit your answers to RockyMountainRanchResearch.org/podcast. Before we do this, I grabbed some things off your website, which I just love. And right here, it's about the author.
My hair's a little darker there, so.
And you're such a great artist. I mean, what a talent!
Look, I got my head. This is it. I'm right at the same desk here.
Look at you. Look at you. Look.
I got my glasses. I have a little bit different glasses on. I wear these ones because they're easier. You can see my eyes better on a podcast.
Well, I love this talent because, some of the best musicians and artists never go to formal school. And you say you never went to a formal art school, and you studied through Mad Magazine, which is so fantastic. And then you spent 10 years as a yuppie, which is funny, in New York City.
That's a truism. That's as true as it gets. Yeah.
Right. So you move out to Wyoming and you turn into a ski bum, and you camp and spend time in the Rockies and all that, and your life changed forever, right? And you started these fun books here, and I just love these. And you can still get these today, right?
All of them are still available. Yeah. So those were my first of the backpacking series where I had my name on the cover as illustrator. Was from, good grief, I think 1996 maybe.
Wow, these are so great.
So this is done without a computer. Right? That's like paint. That's all one piece of green paper that I painted. Wow. So that's all of it. The hand lettering is like, there's one piece of green paper that's got
even more amazing. That's
that's how everyone did it at a certain point. So that it wasn't amazing in the slightest in 1997. That's how mankind had done it since, we first chiseled something on a stone. But then now we have computers, so we can change it and tweak it and fine tune it.
And now even worse, maybe not worse, but for some it's better. But now you just ask, Grok or Chat.
Oh, I don't. Yeah.
Design me a logo on Upacom. You're like, that's putting a lot of graphic artists and artists out of work. And
like me.
Yeah, like me too. A lot of experiencers, because we're the artistic type.
Yeah.
We're out of work. It writes songs. It makes lyrics. It's like, stop.
Yeah.
But you know what? Nothing beats humans as far as I'm concerned. This I thought was a fun page, so I wanted to share this. Can you talk a little bit about this? Because I love that it's like you can make some things out of junk to take. I know we're off the subject of UFOs. We'll get back
that's okay. Yeah. So this is ultralight backpacking. So the goal of ultralight backpacking, right? So like the goal of, of running a marathon is you want the time to be really low, right? That's your goal. I want to come in under a certain time. So the goal of ultralight backpacking is you want your pack weight to be really low. You can check this by putting the pack on a scale, a fully loaded pack. And so then you make your own stuff out of trash. So, a cook stove, you can reach into your trash and pull out, or your recycle bin, that might be a more accurate way to say it, and pull out the little cat food can of and then you clean it up. You don't want a stinky cat food can. You wash it out, and then you take a hole puncher. I don't have one here. I have one here in the room somewhere. Just like those little hole punchers you get at the office supply store that punch a hole in a piece of paper. And you just go pink, 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 pink around the edge of the cat food can. There's a nice way to do it, and I have a little diagram on how to do it and such. And you poke little holes in the can, and then you pour a little bit of denatured alcohol, which you can get at the hardware store. It's like cheap. It's $6 for a big can. And then you can carry the denatured alcohol in a old water bottle or a soda bottle. So again, you just pull something out of the trash. You don't need to go to REI and get a special bottle for your denatured alcohol. And then you can light that on fire. It's in denatured alcohol doesn't like explode like gasoline. It burns really gently. It's got a nice blue flame. It doesn't not going to burn your hand. It's not going to flash up, and so it feels very safe compared to other stoves like butane stoves or white gas stoves. And then you set your little pot right on there, and it makes an amazing, simple little stove. So the stove itself is free, right? Because it's the vessel that the cat food came in, so it's trash.
If you bring your cat, right? This is a tip for all you Bigfoot hunters out there. Now, don't start a forest fire when you're out.
You don't want to start a forest fire, yeah.
So. Yeah, make sure you're safe out there with the fire.
And so with a denatured alcohol, if you have a little water bottle nearby with some water in it, and your stove somehow lights the little grass on fire, it's not like it's being lit on fire by gasoline. You just pour it. Alcohol goes out very quickly. You just pat it with your hand and put it out if you need it to.
Great. So, you can bring a little tea kettle or a little whatever.
No, we wouldn't bring a tea kettle because that wouldn't be ultralight backpacking if you brought a tea kettle. Heavy. Yeah, so
scratch that. See, this is why we have Mike telling us how to do this.
Oh, now we're on to backcountry skiing. If you learn from
Katie, you'll be like 50 pounds and you won't be able to go very far. No, I love this. Okay, so the backcountry ski book. This is awesome.
That backcountry ski book has what I would say, and I will stand by this, has the best igloo instructions you're going to find in any book anywhere on planet Earth.
All right.
So if you want to build an igloo, there's a book with cartoons on how to build the igloo in there.
Oh, I love that. And did you draw the cartoons as well?
I drew all the stuff in there. There's another one I did the cover. You know what? Actually, I got it. This one had crossed into the line of I used the computer to clean this one up. So
this is a transition illustration.
Yeah, it's on the other side of I had gotten good at Photoshop at that point. So
that's awesome. This is kind of scary. The avalanche book.
Well, you're in Colorado. Colorado has the highest number of avalanche fatalities of any state year after year. Yeah, so that's not a surprise. It has the highest number of skiers. So, and then snow machiners and people like that. So that one's.
You know that great mystery was it in Russia? It's been a mystery for decades. And I think just recent information came out that it was actually a rare type of avalanche so mystery solved that killed these people, those campers. I can't remember the name of it.
Going back like 60 years or something?
Yeah, I think so. It was a long time ago. And I don't think it was an avalanche.
I'm not sure. I remember it seemed like they were in pretty flat terrain.
Yeah, I think there was some rare. I think I just read it like last week. I don't know.
Okay, you need a hill in order to have. I don't know enough about it, but you need a hill and you need a slope. You're not going to get an avalanche without a hill. So
true facts. Backpacking book. So those are fun. And then so I kind of want to talk about these sketches, and then we're going to get into your owl books and some owl questions. So can you talk about what these illustrations are and what publications they're in?
That is in a book called The Cryptoterrestrials. The author is Mac Tonys. That book came out in 2010. Now, Mac died. Mac was a pretty good friend of mine. We never met, but we talked on the phone a lot. And he was working on the book The Cryptoterrestrials, and we never had a formal agreement, but it was kind of just like, yeah, Mac, let me do the illustrations for your book. Let me do chapter headers. And then there's an illustrator named R. Crumb. He did underground comics in the 60s, very recognizable style. And so Mac was a big fan of R. Crumb, as am I. And I said, I would do it in this form, like R. Crumb illustrations. Like if R. Crumb did R is Robert Crumb, but if Robert Crumb did the illustrations for your book, I would do it in that style. And there's a little bit of myself in there, but it's got kind of an R. Crumb style. And so Mac died in 2009, and then I got a hold of the publisher. The book, he had written the manuscript. The book was unpublished, and I got a hold of Patrick Weege at Anomalous Press, and said, "Hey, I've been trying to get a hold of you." And he said, "Oh, I've been trying to get a hold of you." He said, "Mac's mother said that he wanted someone. He had someone he wanted to do the illustrations for." So I offered to do the illustrations for these. I think there's like 11 or 12 illustrations that begin each chapter, and that would be a little portrait of Mac himself. In that last one with the open door.
Yeah. Wow. So he had encounters, and that.
No, he never had encounters. He never had encounters. He was. I did. Well, I just. You know what it was? I did that illustration without the little gray alien. See the little gray alien centered there in the doorway, kind of like with the blinding light behind it. I did it without the alien, and you know what? It was so eerie because like Mac was a friend of mine, and Mac had died. It was really emotional doing this.
I'm sure.
So after Mac's passing, I did this illustration, but like without that alien, this is like the door to death. It really had a spooky vibe to it. When I put the illustration I changed it and added the gray alien there, and it changed everything. It had a totally different feel as soon as then it felt like much more mysterious but it wasn't. He never had any direct experiences that he knew of.
Okay. Well, that's interesting because this other sketch here that I put up with the different types of ETs, I just kind of made the assumption that perhaps he had a abduction encounter.
He had been talking to people who have had the contact experience, and in the book, The Corruptor-Terrestrials, he theorizes, and he was a beautiful writer, and so he kind of theorizes about, why are there different types? And he kind of names a series of different types, and then I did what I could to capture those in that illustration.
Oh, interesting. Well, beautiful artwork. And so talk us through then. So here you are on this path, this journey of outdoor, light backpacking and skiing and that. And then what happened to you with owls that set you on this path of the messengers?
So I was in 2006. I was living in this little town of Driggs, Idaho, right near Grand Teton National Park. So it looks just like the backdrop there of your image there. Mountains of like a flat, open western valley. You know what it was a lot? It was a lot like Alamosa, that valley in Alamosa, Teton Valley. It was a little drier and a little but it was essentially, it felt like home when I was at the Snippy event. But I had been working for the school by the time I left this, I had worked for the school for 17 years. And then I worked for some guide services for a few years after that, and it wasn't full time. But
were you a teacher?
I would have been an instructor at the school, the National Outdoor Leadership School. I used to not give the name. It's been long enough. I'm not going to I have no association with the school anymore. So I don't want to young parents send young adults to that school. So I don't want to stain their reputation with my nuttiness. So,
anybody's reputation.
Well, maybe not stain, but I don't want to I have friends that still work for the school and such. So, but anyway, so the school, they would do 30-day trips. So we'd go out into the mountains for 30 days.
Wow.
So the bus would drop us off at a roadhead, and we'd go out for 30 days. There was a way we would get the groceries delivered about once every 10 days. So that means, for a 30-day trip, you carry 10 days of food when you get dropped off by the bus or the airplane or the boat or however, there's all kinds of ways. And then 10 days into it, you get another load of food, you give some trash back, and 10 days later, you get another load of food and you give some trash back. And then after that final 10 days, you're back in you get picked up again. So we could go for 30 days and not see another party. And our team was usually...
How did you get the food? An owl
either
brought
horses. No, horses would bring it in mostly in the Rockies. So it'd be horsepackers would come in, and then I've had in Yellowstone, I've had food delivered by boat on Yellowstone Lake, helicopters. I've worked in the Canadian coastal range and had food delivered by helicopters. And in Alaska, the food would get delivered by like the bush planes. The planes are the big, fat, giant rubber tires that can land on the tundra. So, so yeah, it was remarkable. Really remarkable chapter of my life. I have a unique relationship to the outside, the outdoors, given all my time doing that stuff. So, okay, what was your question? Oh, how did I get into this?
Yeah,
So while my life was going along, I was living this blessed life where I would work outdoors, doing all this outdoor stuff, and I would come home and sit at the desk and draw cartoons of people outdoors, right?
Right.
And then I would go in the field, and there was a few beautiful years in there where I had that all balanced out, where I could work on the books, and I could go in the mountains, and I was like, I wasn't making much money, but it was was it a nice life. And then in 2006, I went camping with a woman named Kristen. I'm going to interview her on my own podcast. She's lined up, and I'm still good friends with her. So this woman, Kristen, I met her in my little town. She was working at the school. She was what's called in town. So she was working in the equipment room where you would issue the backpacks and the boots and the wind shirts and all that stuff. So, and she was in the valley I was living in Driggs, Idaho. And I had been up in Alaska all summer, and then I came down to the lower 48 in the fall, and she was still working at the school, and I met her. It was kind of a little tight-knit community of people working for the school. So it was so I said, "Hey, you've been here all summer. You must have gone out camping a lot." She said, "I didn't camp once." I'm like, "I'll take you camping." So I took her camping, complete stranger. And it's funny, I have people kind of said, "You took a complete stranger camping?" And I was like, it was camping culture. It'd be like taking someone surfing in Malibu or something like that, So, and then we went out, and so to tell the story quickly, there's a couple interesting things. So, total stranger. We hiked into the mountains with light packs. I packed her pack for her. We had really light packs, and we went into the mountains. And we were just going to go for one night. We didn't take a tent or anything like that. It was going to be a beautiful night. It was autumn. No bugs at that time of year. It would have been right around this time, early October. So, and we're sitting there, and we're both sitting on a big flat rock. And I've been out. I'd spent I got to be careful. I'd probably spent 60 days out that summer already. So I was totally, completely in my element being out there. So I was like cooking on a big flat rock and field of wildflowers, and the sun is setting, and then these owls start flying above us. 3 owls started circling around us, and they would land on trees near us and sit with us. Now this happened simultaneously with her talking about something. And I was like, wow, you are smart. You are much more spiritual than I thought. Like, it was really powerful, a really beautiful moment when these owls showed up. And then we eventually laid down to go to sleep. So we're on our backs, and we're looking up at the night sky. It's the Northern Rockies. You know what it's like in the mountains. I mean, it's like billion, trillion, zillion stars. Yeah. So the stars would be blotted out for just half a second because these owls would fly right in front of our faces. And owls are very silent in flight, so there's no, it was really eerie and beautiful. So the next day we hike out, and we're like, wow, that was pretty cool about those owls. Oh yeah, that was really nice. And I said, hey, if you ever want to go camping again, I'll take you out again. So 4 days later, we went to a different part of the mountains, and as the sun was setting, we climbed a little hill. It was a little colder. So we said, let's climb that hill and just be warm. So we took a tent this time. So we come back and we'll climb in the shelter. We'll warm up by walking up the hill and walking back down. She's like, great. So we walked up to the top of the hill. And as soon as we got to the top of the hill, the sun was setting and 3 owls flew around us, just like 4 days before.
Do you think there was a significance to the 3?
Oh, I could wrap my mind around there might be a significance to the 3. I mean, that's how the grays show up in 3s. I do not think these were screen memories. I feel very strongly they were little 10-inch tall owls. These were like cute little fluffy owls. They were and they were landing at our feet. This first time they kind of kept their distance, not the second time. They were landing at our feet.
That's powerful.
And now when I had the experience of seeing real owls with Kristen, I had both nights I did not talk about this at the time, and now you can't shut me up about it. But at the time, I had a voice in my head that says, this has something to do with the owls. Excuse me, let me back up. I was looking at real owls, and a voice in my head said, this has something to do with the UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
I have done, just so you know, I have done that. I've been at this research for, well, that book came out that book will be out a decade, but I was doing lots of research in the years leading up to that book. So,
Right.
Less than 20 years, more than 15, I've been immersed in this, and I have mixed up the word owl and UFO so many times. They're both 3 letters. It's like, oh. So, I had a voice in my head that said this has something to do with UFOs. Basically a message.
Right.
So there's no UFO in this story unless you factor in the voice in my head that said UFOs.
Yeah. I would count that.
I do
I would
too.
count
Sure.
that. And did you have UFO encounters, I mean, after this event?
Well, I had UFO encounters growing up.
Okay, there you go.
And
So-
and in my 30s, and in 19, I would have been almost, I would have been 44 years old in 2006. So, so my life, like I had been reading UFO books almost compulsively, like kind of crazy compulsively. Yeah. And there would be like these reports of missing time. And I was like, oh, I had missing time. And then there was like, I had a lot of stuff happen and I denied it. I pushed it away. Like I was not going there. I wasn't going to deal with it. I wasn't going to, and it felt like, when you put a tea kettle on the stove and turn the flame on, you stand there in the kitchen, that thing's going to whistle at some point. Mm-hmm. Like you just know it's going to happen. And there's this kind of tension in the kitchen. So so I had that experience with owls and a UFO, even though it was just a voice in my head, twice with the same person in the mountains, miles and miles apart. We camped in 2 separate spots. And with a woman named Kristen, with Christ right in the first 5 letters of her name. And I'll more on that in a second. So what was the first question I asked, what was going on in your life?
Yeah.
I could say, I knew I needed to look into the UFO stuff, but I was not going there. I was not going to do that. So that tension in the kitchen, that tea kettle is going to whistle. And that's where I was. I was just like, it's like, I'm not going there. I'm not going to look into this, but I knew I had to. So it was that experience that forced me to look into the UFO stuff. So I had an experience with owls. I started looking into my UFO experiences, right? And I started like compulsively blogging and kept journals. I went kind of crazy for more than a few years there, and I reached out to Kristen. She had moved out of the valley, and I called her up and I said, "Listen, I got to ask, what were we talking about the first night when we saw the owls?" When we went camping the first night, right? You were talking about something right as we saw the first set of owls. And she said, oh, I remember exactly what I was talking about. I was giving my deepest definition of what God means to me. Mm. And now, like, I'm not like churchy in that respect, but wow, do I recognize the mythic implications of having that conversation at that moment when this life-changing set of events happened. When I say life-changing, my work at the school just crumbled. I stopped working for the school. It's just like, and then I lost a set of friends, in essence, because I was just so obsessive. But what also happened is a new set of friends emerged, like MacTonies, and that were involved in this other community. So I left one tribe and just found myself in another tribe.
Wow. Yeah, that's really powerful. And how old were you, Mike, when you had your first encounter? And I recognize that in China, that comment. Can you bring that comment back up again for me, please? I kind of want to, before we get into your childhood encounter, it says in ancient China, particularly during the Shang and Zhou dynasties, owls were revered as powerful guardians of the night and even gods of war. So I know Kristen was talking about what God meant to her, and you were in this transit, like, I would say you're being a little stubborn, not wanting to face your childhood encounters and that, and you didn't want to look at it. But did you have a sense too of protection? I mean, were you aware of that powerful shift, or like, oh my gosh, these are messengers at that time, or did it take you a little while to recognize the message?
Well, it took a while. I mean, felt like my life. So what happened is, after seeing the owls, you know who I got in touch with? I got in touch with Leo.
Oh, Dr. Leo Sprinkle.
Dr. Leo Sprinkle. So I took the pilgrimage. I went it's getting dark here. Talk about it. It's getting all moody here. Yeah, I'll light myself up a little better. I was living in Idaho, and so I did the long drive to Laramie and met with Leo. And then I talked with Leo on the phone a bunch, and I saw him at conferences after that. And I just threw myself into this research crazy. Like, I was blogging, I was doing podcasts. I started my own podcast in 2009, which is kind of early in the grand scheme of podcasting.
Yeah.
And so it was a really chaotic chapter of my life. So it wasn't a smooth thing. It's not like I just woke up and like, oh, now I'm transformed, and now I'm on my UFO path. Oh no, I was a mess. It was as chaotic. And so the owl that's when I was talking about it. Like, it was challenging. So that the mythos of the owl is a little different in all kinds of cultures, ancient Greece and Ireland and Russia and South America and stuff like that. But it always has this kind of, so it's interesting. I didn't know that about the guardian of warfare in ancient Chinese, but that would have been ancient Greece too. So okay. Athena, the namesake of Athens, the goddess Athena, the goddess of wisdom, had a companion owl that was often seated on her wrist. And it was a little owl, which is a kind of owl that they have in the Mediterranean areas. And it's just a tiny little owl. It's like 5 inches tall. And so it's a tiny little owl, but that was her companion. So she is associated with owls because of that. And she's also the goddess of war. So that's very interesting.
Okay. That is interesting.
Yeah.
And you see, I mean, in mythology, in that Harry Potter, there's, of course, they had their owls and
delivering the mail.
Yeah, delivering the mail as a messenger.
Exactly.
That was after your book, right? They got it.
No, that was well before me. Yeah.
Oh,
J.K. Rowling, who has owl right in her name,
she owes you a check.
She doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't owe me anything. So so that was came out in the 90s, and that book came out in 2015. So
okay, and so and then right after that, so many.
So I did. So that was the book. So I had so many owl stories. That good owl stories, I couldn't fit them all into book one. So it took 2 books to, like, I could write 50 books on owls and UFOs. I got enough stories, but it would be the same story over and over and over again. I would so.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So when was your first, and then we'll get into the hidden experience here. How old were you, Mike, when you had your first encounter? I'm always curious about that.
As a little, this is something I've never really talked about, and I realized I need to do a blog post on it. I still have my blog. I know it's not active at all, but I remember I was a little kid, and I remember seeing a ghost look in our window, my bedroom window. And I think my brother might have been I shared my room with my brother. He eventually moved to a different, so I think I must have been like 8, 6. Okay.
That's a pretty common age.
Maybe even younger. I was young enough to walk down the hall and crawl into bed with mom and dad. So, but in the only thing I just remember it would have been like a little, and I remember it was gray, saying it was a gray ghost. And I've never really mentioned, and if I drew a picture of it, it would be not much. It would just be like a little fuzzy gray head that was peeking in the window.
Interesting.
Not sideways, but well, more like Stan Romanek's thing in a way, you know. So
That's a good question. Through all your research that you've done, do you see these owl encounters with specific types of alien encounters, like a gray or a reptilian or a Nordic, or is it just across the board?
I would cautiously say it's across the board. I would say that the number of stories that seem to be connected with the grays is higher, but that's true of just like
Right.
if you did a little random plotting of reports, I think the grays would come out highest, and then there would be
That's
you know
true.
other. So
Yeah, that's true.
and
Okay,
that changes by the decades. That changes as time goes on. So
that's also true, which is also fascinating to me. I'm going to do my paranormal question, and then I want to talk to you, Mike, about screen memory. So the paranormal question is: a ghost that repeats the same action or sound, like walking down a hall, is often called what type of haunting? A residual haunting, an intelligent haunting, or poltergeist? Mike. Again, submit your answers to RockyMountainRanchResearch.org/podcast, and I will send you a free PDF surprise as a thank you. So talk about owls and screen memories and what you've learned about that.
well, the very normal story is like driving down the road. This is a story I've heard, a lot. Someone's driving down the road. They turn a corner. There's a big, tall, 4-foot tall owl in the road.
Do they get that tall in nature? I mean, naturally,
No.
how big is
No, they don't get that tall.
owl? How big is the biggest owl?
If an owl got to be less than 3 feet,
Okay, less than 3 feet.
I wrote 27 inches. I kind of had to come up with this, and I said 27 inches. I don't know. I'm not an owl. I'm not like there may be but if there was an owl, if you saw an owl that was 27 inches tall, like you'd be hard pressed to find a 28-inch owl out there.
But
So
4 feet?
so people, but you know what they say? They say, I saw a 4-foot tall owl. And you kind of like, okay, that's be like seeing that'd be like seeing a cat the size of a giraffe or something like that,
Okay.
So, but, and then they pull up to the owl, and then like either the owl leaves or flies off, and then they get home and they've lost 2 hours of time.
Okay, missing time.
This is very common. I've heard that story 500 times. Maybe.
Wow.
I got to be careful. Like I'm maybe, like it's like, how do I come up with a number? It feels like 500. I'll tell you that. But,
Is it always a bird, or is there other things too?
no, it's not. So deer and owl are right up there side by side. It would be tough. I've asked all of them. I've asked everyone, not all of them. I should be careful. I don't want to use superlatives like all. I have asked a great many UFO researchers, Leo, Bud. I never talked to Dave or to John Mack, but Yvonne and Mary Rodwell and John Carpenter, and I've talked to a lot of people who've done this work, and they all kind of say, yeah, deer and owl, they're right up there. Like even Stephen, people will report, I saw like a deer was standing in the road staring at me, and I had to stop the car, and this deer was staring at me. And then I got home, the deer walked away, and I got home, and I was 2 hours late. So it's the same story with the deer. And there's always something about the eyes. I say, yeah, the eyes I was transfixed by the eyes. So, and then beneath those two is a long list of other things.
Rabbit.
Squirrels, rabbits, raccoons, firemen, clowns, cartoon characters sometimes show up, but a deer and owl are at the top of the list. And
So our friend here said the wingspan on the biggest owl is 6.5 feet, but that's a wingspan. I wonder how tall. Up to 10 pounds.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Well, that's true of any. So that's true of even. So here, like owls hunt by being quiet.
Right.
Hawks hunt by being fast.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the hawk flies real high, has very good eyesight, sees the rabbit in the farmer's field, and then flies very fast, faster than the rabbit can run, and catches it. The owl flies through the forest at night in total silence, has special wings. Now if you look at a falcon, flies the fastest, falcons have these kind of short, sharp little wings. Not little, but I mean, but an owl has enormous wings. Even a little owl. You take a little owl, and you can just watch on YouTube or something like that. If you see an owl and then it puts its wings up, there's like this holy crap moment. We're like, holy, those things are huge. How do they fold up like that? And like, they're like,
It's like the clown car, like the Volkswagen Bug.
exactly. So the owl can, so owls have ridiculously large wingspan. So everyone says this, like, oh, this owl flew over the car. So you can take a 16-inch tall owl, and it can fly above your car, and its wings are wider than right and left of your hood.
Wow,
so they have big wings, and that's not uncommon. So if someone says, right, "Wow, this owl flew over my car," and just the wingspan was enormous, that's possible. So yeah, the person is correct. The Eurasian eagle owl, I think that's what they said.
Yeah.
Or there's a fishing owl. Is very similar. The companion to the Eurasian eagle owl would be our North American great horned owl.
Okay. Yeah. So the screen memories then, so that people are seeing, and they're particularly, they're just staring at them. They're, looking at the eyes. So is it your belief then what they're actually seeing is an ET species, but the ET is projecting something? Now, is this like a movie screen projecting? Are they teleporting the image directly into the brain? How is this working? I
can speculate. I can't answer. I would love to give an answer.
Yeah.
Like I can
speculate. We're here to speculate.
So somehow, here's what's very common. So, and I've talked to the UFO hypnotherapists, and they say, describe the owl in the road. And then the person says, oh, and they're lying on the couch, and they say, well, the owl is about 4 foot tall. It's really skinny. It's got a bald head and big black eyes, and it's got a tight-fitting spacesuit on, and I don't think it's an owl. And then some stories literally have the gray aliens at the end of like an encounter. This is hypnotically retrieved, and there's plenty of reasons to be skeptical of hypnosis, but this is something that shows up commonly within the transcriptions of hypnosis. The gray alien or the gray being will telepathically communicate to the witness or to the observer, and they'll get the message: "You're not going to remember this. You will remember me as an owl."
Gotcha.
Or a giant chipmunk, or a deer, or something like that. Yeah. So
it actually seems very like kind in a way. Like I would much rather have a memory of a baby doe deer or a beautiful owl than a what would be scary, at least at first, until maybe you got more comfortable in understanding. Because oftentimes we hear of alien abductions or encounters where it's very scary at first. And then it transitions into a very spiritual awakening, which is also interesting to me with the work you do, because oftentimes these are catalysts for a spiritual awakening or a big change in your life, like you said. And I can't believe our hour is almost gone, so I'm going to throw this last question out, and I want to get to your other books before we end. So the cryptid question is, I like this one, is the chupacabra is most often associated with attacks on what kind of animal? Cattle, goats, or horses? The chupacabra, which animal? Let's talk a little bit about these, Mike. Hidden experience.
So that was, what happened is I did, I had a blog starting in 2009.
You still have this blog, correct?
It's still up. I don't post there much anymore.
Post,
I gotta, it's whatever. Like, how do you keep track? How do you keep up to it? I'm like
a lot of
in
work.
my 60s, and I gotta have a Substack and a podcast and a homepage, and yeah. So
Can't keep up.
So I was very. So what happened is I started the blog in 2009, and I was writing initially about synchronicities because I got a lot of them in my life.
Yeah.
And then I early on, all of a sudden this UFO stuff just like forced itself on, it just felt like, oh, I got to put this stuff on the blog. And so I would speculate about these experiences in my youth and UFO sightings and missing time. and then it just like all hell broke, like the dam exploded and my life just fell apart. I was just like awash in synchronicities, and then people started sending me their stories and their owl stories, and I started and I was, you can read, so in the blog, like, so if people write their UFO memoirs, right, and they'll say 10 years ago I had this experience and this is what happened 10 years ago. And then they'll write a little formal essay about, or chapter about what happened. So in my experiences, it was like, this happened last night. And I was blogging about it. Wow. So it has a different sense of urgency to it. And now, so that book right there has the least number of sales, which is fine, than the other two. But the people who've read it who are not experiencers, kind of like ho-hum about it, like, oh, it's kind of a weird book, Mike. I didn't get it. People who are experiencers are like, Mike, you wrote the book that I can't write because I can't tell my boss. Like, you wrote the book that I wish you encapsulated the distressing quandary of this, because I was stressed out. I was maxed out, and it is not hidden in those blog posts. So it's not every blog post. I got about 1,000 posts, and there's probably about 100 posts that are kind of threaded together to tell a story in that book.
You bring up an important part. So you've had a lifelong, paranormal life, I like to call it, encounters, different things happen to you throughout your life. You have this this pivotal moment of these incredible encounters with these owls that changes the course of your life. And even, both you and I know Dr. Leo Sprinkle. And so this is, you say it well, it's kind of a shaky, uneasy time, this transition where you're kind of absorbing all this information, your life changes. But you talk about synchronicities in connection with all this. And I find that interesting because I feel like, we've talked about it privately also, that there's something about this path that a lot of people find themselves on that even if you want to get off of it, it pulls you back on it. It pulls you back on the path, a synchronicity, a sign. And it sounds like this has happened to you time and time again. And I mean, just from your books and your work, I feel like you have been called to share these things with the masses, to blog, to post, to have people share. And I think that is, just a testimony to your work and how important I feel your work is, because so many people, thousands of people, have been able to look at your work and it's been a sounding board for them. They're not feeling so alone, and they can understand some of these synchronicities and signs. So I just want to thank you for the work that you've done. And we only have 7 minutes or so left. Can you talk about your novel here also?
So the novel came out a couple years ago, and it's funny because I actually started writing this novel. Originally wanted it to be a comic book. I was going to illustrate the whole thing as a comic book. The cover is kind of a nod to that comic book vibe to it. So, but I wrote out a big script, and I had a plot outline, and I did some sketches, and a lot of those are on my blog. You can dig through the blog and find those pretty easily. But and then I talked to some friends who worked in the comic book industry, and I was going to do the whole thing myself. And they're like, oh, it'll make you crazy. It's too much work. You got to work as a team to do a comic book. Nobody does it themselves. And I got all disillusioned and put it on the shelf. So after I did the first 3 books, I was kind of like, what do I do now? And this was COVID. So that the last book came out in 2019. So then 2020 came along and the whole world shut down. And I was like, okay, this is going to be my COVID project. And so I instead of doing it as a comic book, I wrote it as a novel. So it is a UFO story where I never mention the word UFO.
Oh, very cool.
And I'm
going to test you on that. I'm going to go through.
It's in there. You can. I'll pass that test. It's not in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
interesting.
Yeah, synchronicity. The word synchronicity is not in there. So.
Did you do that intentionally? Like,
yeah.
Word in there.
It's not even. It's not even on the. It's not. So the cover of the name of the book, The Messengers, is Owls, Synchronicity, and the UFO Abductee. I took out the subtitle, so it just says, The Messengers, author of The Messengers.
Very cool. And very quickly, I just want to share for all of you out there. Do you still collect people's encounters in that?
Okay.
Or
Oh
are
yeah,
you
yeah,
like,
yeah.
are you
Bring
like
them
so
on.
burned out? I'd be like, oh my gosh, if I hear another owl.
You know what? I gotta be. What I am bad at is like people send me their stories and I read them and then I don't get back to everyone. And I have to say I'm in a little bit of a, thank God, I'm in a little bit of a lull where I'm getting fewer stories. I was getting 6 stories a day for a year. This is
But
just a
that
couple
really
years.
says a lot, doesn't it? I mean, that
Oh,
just says a
oh,
lot
oh,
that,
I don't need anyone to convince me that there's something happening. Yeah.
right.
Owls and UFOs are connected.
Yeah. Well, it makes me wonder too. Like, I'm just going to share, like, this was the day after my birthday. My birthday's May 20th. I share a birthday with Cher. Anyways, and this hawk, and it's not only that it landed right in front of the window, it's the way it would tilt its head. Like, look at it. It was like looking at me, like, and for me, I lost my mom, not this recent July, but the July before. And I really felt, as I think so many people do, like this is a messenger, a message, because not every day a beautiful hawk just lands in front of your window and sits there for, a full minute or two and nods its head at you. So I feel like you said, there's the deer and the owl, and then this whole other list, yeah, thank you for tuning in. It's always great to see you. But there's so many, and you hear people like with bluebirds or things that were special to people, dragonflies and all different things. And are these kind of the same? Thank you so much. Do you think these are kind of similar to the owls as well? I mean, this is a whole plethora. It's kind of the same message, right?
So the owl is an archetype, right? So
Right.
so it's got a rich mythic tradition. You can see an owl on a fence post if you saw an owl tonight in the headline, in like on a fence post in your headlight beams, in your car headlight beams, you would like, wow, they got a presence. It's not like seeing a bunny rabbit or so and then I got a lot of hawk stories. I got a lot of eagle stories. I got a lot of hummingbird stories. There's like cardinals, red cardinals. There's, go on.
I was going to say, when you were here visiting at my house here, what I love are the stories that you get. We only have a couple minutes left, but you get these stories. So when we got up really early, I don't remember, it was like 5 a.m. or something.
That was our ride to the airport. Yeah.
Yeah, I was taking you to the airport, and we had a beautiful red fox.
Red fox. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Came.
That's perfect.
But also Tony and his son, as they're talking about you and your wonderful work in front of the Wolf Center, Tony and his son Dante are driving, and an owl comes, right? And I texted you. I said, you're not going to believe this.
Oh, I believe.
But as they were talking about you, this owl swooped in front of their car. And you said to me, what did you say?
That's normal.
This is normal for Mike.
Yeah. Totally normal. Like if it doesn't happen, I feel like, what am I doing wrong? Like if I don't get someone like telling me a weird owl story that involves me, if I go a week without one, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like I'm off the path. It's all it happens. I could fill up 5 hours of just stories like that.
I mean, okay, so so this is just to me as mind-blowing as all the work you've done in the owl encounters and all that, because what this says to me is somehow you have manifested, because I'm a big believer in the power of being able to manifest. So this has become so normal for you, Mike, to have this happen that, do you believe then that we're living in some sort of simulation or matrix where you have the power to manifest these sightings? And not only that, but like people will see signs on license plates or songs or things like this. How does this happen? So when somebody is hanging out with Mike Clelland, you're going to have some sort of weird encounter like that.
Not 100%. Not 100%. It's usually not. It's usually owl related.
Owl, but the fox.
It's funny. I don't want to give anything away, but
for 3 years and that's never happened. So I felt like that was something. So do you think you're manifesting this to happen to people around you, or what is that?
Manifesting, whether it's not my intention, like it's not like I got up in the morning and prayed and chanted and said, let's see a red fox this morning, but there is I can not cautiously, I feel like I gotta own it. yeah, like something's going on, and this kind of stuff is so normal for me.
Right. That's so amazing. I think that's very powerful and a wonderful way to end the interview. I can't thank you enough. I hope all of you check out his books and check out his website. It's incredible work, and I think it's an important work. So thank you for being here. Next week, next Wednesday night, we will be live with Dr. Simeon Hine.
Oh, yeah.
So Dr. Simeon will be here next week. We all hung out. So I look forward to seeing you guys next week. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. And until then, have a great weekend, everybody. And thank you, Mike, for being here. Until next time.
Thank you so much.
And push.